Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Today, we're recapping week 4 of April 2023. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from writing a few of the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy winning television producer Chris Cangilla. Chris, thanks for joining me. As usual, how's it going?
It's going great. It was a great week for Jim and Sam, and I really enjoyed listening this week. I was in the car a lot, and it made my day go by really, really good. So
100%. We've talked about that before, where it makes your days go by fast. If you're working, you're trying to get a workout in, it makes it so it's not painful. If you're cleaning, I really needed the show this week, and I need this little show that's going to be like a therapy session. It's going to feel good with me and you because I'm having work done on my house by a big crew every day, and I work at home. And in the midst of all that, all 3 of my young children got strep. So it's been quite the week, and this is a much needed breakdown of Jim and Sam.
You know, looking at you, you'd never guess. You look really fresh and got it together. But what a day, what a week for you, huh?
Man, I appreciate it. And you know what? Maybe it's because I threw on this one of my better sweaters. I just grabbed it heading downstairs. It's a little chilly in my basement. So let's start our show talking about the Jim and Sam show. We've been on the edge of our seats since last week, waiting to hear how the Cleveland road trip would go. And Chris, we finally found out who the mystery videographer was.
Yeah, it was really crazy. And the guys kind of downplayed it, that it wasn't a big deal. Like, I didn't know that you guys didn't know. Yeah, we didn't know who it was. And it was Soraya. Yeah. And that was really kind of cool. And I didn't know she was doing much of that. But Jim made a good point. It's like, if you give her the manual and the camera, she's going to read that thing front to back and know how to operate the thing better than most people. So, yeah, it was a kind of nice surprise. Unfortunately, she had a little bit of a misstep, if you will, before they left. And someone stepped in a little dog poo and happened to be her. So her shoes had a ride, I think, in the trunk when she rode in the back seat.
Look, she's always up for anything, Jim and Sam. She'll wear a lot of hats. She'll help them out. That's why they have her back as a guest. And it seems like they're having her do a little more work, or at least one of them is. But I'm glad she went on this trip and that they're continuing to find a way to utilize her, because she's kind of down on her luck, too. She steps in the poop, and we've heard about her dating life. She's super honest and kind of quirky and fun about it. And she had a date that didn't go too well.
Yeah, and maybe one of the first times we hear that she might have told a lie to the gentleman she was going out with. But yeah, do you want me to tell a little bit of the story?
Yeah, go ahead. You recap it.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. She said that she had the date set up through her app. What is the app that she was using again? Hinged? Is that something like that? Is that?
I don't remember. It might have been.
I've been out of the dating game for a long time.
Yeah. Like I got 3 kids. I'm not on any of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
It was an app for sure.
Yeah. Yep. And she used the app. They set up the date, and they set it up for like a 7:30 on one of the nights, and it happened to be the same night of her appearance where she came in with her what's that drink that she made that spilled all over the table?
Sambuca?
Was it not Sambuca?
No, what am I thinking of?
Anyway, we know what it is.
She makes it better.
Everybody knows the story that she spilled that, and it had a little vinegar taste smell to it. So it got on her lap and got on her dress. So she came home and took a shower and just kind of laid down for a little while before her date. And she slept right to the beginning of it. So she grabbed just a dress, I think, out of her mom's closet and ran there without underwear, and probably not without shoes either. I don't know. And she met the guy late, and it just was a disaster from then on. I mean, she was there. Her hair was wet. She was there late. She told, I think, maybe one of her first lies that her mom was in the hospital.
Yeah.
That's just not going to make it happen. So she just had this horrible time, and she left right when the food arrived. So she had a disastrous date.
Yeah, I think she sent the text like a little bit after she woke up. That was the reason that she was late. Yes. Her mom was in the hospital. There's an emergency. And then she said, the funniest part, I think, to me was when she was telling it in the studio. She said she went there, sat down, and told the guy, "Oh, my mom pulled through."
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't you want to be with your mom if she pulled?
Pretty serious, it sounds like. Yeah, but she pulled through.
It's interesting, and I was thinking about this, and maybe I'm just reading too much into this, but she was in the studio, Saraya was, with the guys from the beginning of that morning, I would assume, because that was the day that infamous Sandy Kane was a guest, and we'll talk about that.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So Sandy Kane kind of outed her that she was in the studio because she said the beautiful girl came and picked me up, and the beautiful girl running your camera here. And we're like, wait a minute. And I started thinking about that. They didn't mention her at all up until Sandy Kane kind of. So I'm wondering what she's doing, with Jim and Sam, or is it just Jim? Because she went on Jim's trip, shot some footage of him. We know that.
Yep.
She's shooting some footage in the studio. We all know why she has to do it, because Sirius won't do it.
Exactly.
But she's shooting some video, so I don't know what that video is going to be used for. It's going to be kind of nice to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, and I feel like I kind of need to put my Jim and Sam tinfoil hat on, because I think you were right. I think that they kind of made light of it the next day after people were asking, when everyone's like, "Oh, who's the mystery videographer going with Jim?" Because it seemed like there were a couple opportunities for them to just say the name, which they usually would, but they didn't. And now Saraya, it was Soraya, as you said, and now she's in studio and Sandy Kane outs her, like you said. So they weren't going to introduce her, or maybe possibly anytime soon say that she's doing that work in the studio. So that's super interesting. What's that for? Was there extra stuff shot on Jim's trip? He recently said that he's got a great hour of material he's been working on, and he wants to tape a special. It sounds like it might head to YouTube. He's talking about putting on the internet.
Maybe looking for more content, more YouTube content. Yeah. It's just interesting to me that it wasn't announced. Usually when she's coming in, she's going to come in and talk about her first date. This is the first time we heard about this date. So we thought, that was going to, they usually will promo her. Nothing said until Sandy brought her up. So
yeah, and it could just be because they're getting zero help from Sirius. I thought Jim got pretty hot on their collar about that this week, though, which I loved. With the video, Sirius is not, they have to plead their case anytime they want to record a video. Sometimes it doesn't get granted. It sounds pretty infuriating for that show.
Yeah,
so
and
she might just be helping them with that, so they have stuff for social.
In social media, his foot got, I think, now into the 35,000 views compared to what Sirius put out about the band Fish. So yeah, they're not getting the love that they deserve, for sure. What's up next?
Absolutely. Well, I want to go back to the road trip just a little bit.
Okay,
we found out how much Jim loved what's going to be discontinued in Sheetz soda, specifically Diet Orange, which sounds amazing to me. I love orange soda.
Yeah.
Jim's always on the GPS. He doesn't veer off it. I'm the same way. And it's not just that I'm terrible with directions, which is great for a man to say, but it's always, if you use the iPhone app, Maps, it's the fastest route. Like, why wouldn't you want to go the fastest route is usually how I plead my case. When an
you use Apple, you use the Apple map when you're.
I do.
Wow.
I know there's Jim always talked about Waze.
I use Waze.
Yeah, okay.
I'm always using Waze, and because it'll reroute you, and it's user supported and whatnot. But yeah, I use a GPS like a crazy man, and my wife will even say, "You know where we're going." we just drove to the restaurant. We're driving back. You know how to get home. I said, "Yeah, but what if something's happening? What if they're doing construction? I just like to know, and I like to know how long it's going to take me to get there." So yeah. And then my favorite part of the Jim story is in Cleveland is that he decided that we're going to drive home Saturday after the late show. I can't do that. I don't know how you are. I cannot drive late at night. I'd rather get up early in the morning and do a couple hours when it's dark, but I can't do it late at night. And then they, after being 3 or 4 hours into it, and he had, I think, a 7-hour trip, he was snacking on some pretzels, and he kept on asking his girlfriend for more pretzels, and she was kind of being a pain about it, I guess. So he would just take the pretzels because he didn't want to have any more. He's trying to be good on his diet, and he was just throwing them out the window, which was a weird choice. But if you go down I-80 in Pennsylvania, you'll find some of Jim's remnant pretzels, I think.
Treats. Look, he loves those. I know for a fact he likes to get them in the green room and enjoy them, which is great. That's what he likes. But it's the way that he described it, and Sam was jumping in. It sounded like a maniac thing to do, but he's just trying to have some willpower because he knows that he'll just finish the whole bag. It must have been a big bag for him to be doing that. And it was funny because Travis, as much as Travis usually is teaming up with Sam against Jim and sometimes Troy, pointing out that they're the weird ones, I feel like Travis has kind of had Jim's back lately on a couple of things that.
Well, why Travis has his back. We all discovered that this week he's their do boy. So that's a big reason why he'll do anything you say.
Did you do the same thing I did, Chris? Is when Sam was like, "Oh, what's that term for the guy in jail?" Were you like right away, like, "Do boy"?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Unfortunately, I knew that
it.
one, which I didn't want to know. But Jim had a little quip. He goes, "What, producer? No, that's not. That's not the right thing."
That was great. But yeah, the pretzels thing was absolutely hilarious. We talked about Soraya's funk. Now, Jim, I thought this was going to be a one-time thing because I didn't think his girlfriend was going to like it. But Jim is still in a separate bed than his girlfriend in the apartment. We haven't talked about who's kissing the stuffed animal.
No,
but it's really interesting, and they're both happy with the arrangement.
Yeah, it was. I think it came about because she sprayed some perfume on before she went to bed that night, and Jim was fighting a little bit of a head cold, so he was having a hard time breathing anyway. So they decided that maybe for another night we'll just go into these separate beds. First it started off with the spray tan,
yes,
and then it's a perfume thing. So I hope there's no trouble in paradise, but maybe they just figuring out that it works for Voss and Bonnie, so maybe it would work for these guys too to sleep in a different spot.
Nice. I'm sorry, hi Chris.
I was just going to say it's funny because the comedian Mike, is it Fiola or how do you pronounce his name?
I think Fiona, something like that. It's a little different. Yeah.
He asked Jim if if he was going to get his own spray tan, so he could extend this thing and sleep in his bed. If Jim got a spray tan, then he could make this go on a little further and get his choice of a room. And Sam said, yeah, Jim's going to show up like an overweight bodybuilder, an orange overweight bodybuilder, because that's what they look like. So I thought that was pretty good.
That's amazing. We heard yet again about and then from when they played the audio Phil Williams, and it is just always such a delight because Phil Williams always nails everyone. He sounds preposterous. We don't know why, and Jim and Sam absolutely love him.
Yeah, he's an odd one, but he does a great job. I've worked in TV news a little bit and done some investigative reporting work as a camera op and done some of those things. And he is an anomaly. He doesn't have a voice for television or even radio, but boy, he knows how to interview somebody and get to the point of the matter. And he did that with the state representative in Tennessee, and he said some things probably shouldn't have. And I think his report led to maybe that gentleman being taken off his post there,
as he should have been. I think he was texting an assistant or an intern some inappropriate things and
some weird inappropriate things.
Added a lot of levity to his questions of this poor woman. Now we have a segment called Ongoing Hits that we do, and we were talking before the show. I think it's a perfect one, as do you, to throw in Mr. Troy Kwan. And I cannot get enough of the haunted house story where him and his now fiance almost went toe to toe with a gang of teenage girls.
Yeah, it was an interesting story back in October. I think they were doing that for Halloween, and Troy, wanted to go to blows with these girls because they're cutting in line. And I've been there too. I get so frustrated with that. I'm a rules follower. That's me. So if there's a line, I'm going to stay in line. And if people are cutting, like, no, it's not going to happen. And Troy had enough. And the latest little news to that story is that amusement park is now requesting that chaperones go with anybody under 14 or 15. So there's a debate in the studio of, how old those girls were that Troy wanted to fight. And he's like, they were over 14. They're 16, kept on making it older and older. So he didn't look like the guy that was going to pick on little girls. But instead of having security guards, they're going to go with chaperones. And Troy just said, just make it better, more well lit, because the lighting there is horrible. But another one of those greatest hits that I like, or our what we call ongoing hits, is the temperature in the studio seems to fluctuate from very cold to extremely hot. And it's been happening a lot lately. And Jim turns up the thermostat, so it's extremely hot in there. And the guys tend to give him a lot of grief from there. They even go to Mike about Mike and say, hey, is it hot in here? And he goes, yes, and it has somewhat of a musty kind of, I wouldn't say locker room smell, but it has a little bit of odor now. So I guess when it heats up, it raises the body temperatures in the room too. So that's another one that keeps on giving us the hits, right?
There's like a film of BO in the air. Yes, I'm sure. A great hit indeed. And something that is not ongoing was hate to break the fourth wall, but it was a pre-done recording. It was a bit, it was a little gag, and we're not used to in Jim and Sam that I loved hearing was Jim's recording of him making an accurate media prediction to Sam, who was a doubter. And I think Sam may have been played by perhaps Troy. And this is a Troy heavy episode. It did a great job this week.
Yeah, a lot of stuff for Troy to do this week. But yeah, it was really funny because they had this full conversation about Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon being relieved of their duties at their networks. And they played the little bit, and Jim predicted all of that. And, that it would happen with Don Lemon on the same day. And Sam, didn't agree with him in the audio clip. So, yeah, it was quite troublesome that Sam is a doubter and Jim is spot on, right?
Exactly. As Sam's voice was so funny, whoever was behind it. And
maybe they cut a clip, too. They could have cut a clip of him saying that to something else and then inserted that in there.
True.
That's how I would have done
it. I think...
just wait. I'll do that to you sometime when we're having
a debate. Do it in this episode. It'd be perfect.
There you go.
I think we don't get a lot of that. So it was like a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? There's not like a lot of...
pre-production.
It's kind of like more of a terrestrial radio thing. So when they do it, it's like, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, they don't make a meal out of it, but they do like... If they can do that occasionally, I love it because we don't get a lot of the pre-production stuff that Troy was doing, a year or so ago when they had a little bit more time and a little bit more maybe.
You get some of it like coming back from break, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but yeah, it's not like during the show and all those. And I think part of that was you had guys like little baby Anthony that were under the gun to produce things, and Troy would help him with it, and Troy would do production voices.
Yeah, for sure. And then Troy's busy during the show answering the calls, when he could have done some other pre-production work or whatever. And so they're spread a little thin there. It looks like. I mean, it's I appreciate everything that they're doing too, because it's not easy with a group of just 5 guys to put that show on, right?
Yep. It's a smaller crew, but they do a great job. And here's something that happened, and I don't think it was an accidental big reveal. I think Sam forgets that we have this colossal podcast and that people will remember, because I think he thinks people are going to forget that he might have outed himself for a secret Santa gift when he was talking about some of the merchandise that was on Bill O'Reilly's website.
Yeah, with the Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon thing, they got talking about Bill O'Reilly and his departure from Fox, and they wanted to know if he's still doing it and how he's making his money. And they went to his website, and boy, he's selling a ton of stuff. And they went through all of it, and Sam liked an 8x10. I can't remember what the 8x10 was, if it said anything on there, but Sam said, yeah, I think I want that for my Secret Santa. And I hope whoever has him as a Secret Santa made a little notch somewhere and made a note of that so that he will get what he wants for Christmas, because he's probably not going to get that wrestling shirt he wants so bad for Jim, because Jim had the opportunity last Christmas and didn't deliver that. So
I don't know if he's going to. I could see him doing a picture of it, and also I can see Sam buying the 8x10 for someone, and someone also buying the 8x10 for him. I think that would be amazing,
for sure.
Amazing if that happened.
Maybe Jim will give a picture of that shirt on a shirt for Sam.
That's
who
amazing.
Knows? Could be for sure.
I could see him.
And then that led to them talking about Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, one of Sam's favorite people in the world, and her commercial for what's it called? Real Women of Politics. Beer koozies they're selling, and to the song of the Bud Light, Real Men of Genius, or whatever that was. And everybody was having fun with that, but that spot is 20 years old. So I'm like, what are we doing?
Decades old.
Yeah. And then it led to just Jim having a discussion about his dream where he was being chased by the little horses that were for the Chuck Wagon. Do you remember the Chuck Wagon Purina ad? I think it's a Jim and guys like my age remember it's an ad, and it's a Purina Chuck Wagon, and they're just the dog's chasing it across because it's delivering the food, and it disappears into the cabinet. It's a weird spot. Led to the plop fizz for Alka-Seltzer. Do you remember that spot?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good. I'm glad you remember some of these.
And I think the next one I knew about too.
What was the next one?
Forgot what it was. It was like that. It was one of those kind of old jingly commercials.
Gotcha.
I want to go back to Sarah Huckabee Sanders real quick
Sure.
because as I said, this is a Troy heavy episode. We got some of the best Troy kind of lines and riffs in that break. He was doing an impression of Sarah. Kept saying koozie. Sarah would be like, "What is it? What are you trying to sell? Beer koozie."
Oh yeah, he had the accent
It was
down. That's
hilarious.
right. Yeah, it was really good. They did that whole take it in that southern accent. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Troy's a winner this week. We have guests of the week, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, for sure. And
contributor of the week is Troy for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. And you know who he reminds me of? They do the same thing is Travis because they both pick their spots. And when they talk, it counts. It's either interesting or funny.
Yeah, they don't make
job.
it. I'm going to say it again. They don't make a meal out of things, man. They just add this
I
little
love
extra
that.
flavor.
Look, that's why you're a TV producer extraordinaire. I love that term. I'm going to be saying it all the time. It's not even going to make sense. I'm be saying it like,
don't make a meal out of it.
Hurry up. Hurry up. You don't make a meal out of it. What?
There you go. Exactly.
So
speaking of meals, yeah, Jim, you got it.
What?
I just said the same thing you did at the same time. But yeah, speaking of meals, segue.
Yeah, we heard a little bit about meat when Jim tried to coin a new phrase for something. He said meat thumb, and I think there were crickets, and it felt pretty flat.
Yeah, and I think we can all figure out what a meat thumb is, and especially when relating to Jim. But it was, I thought it was funny, and he throws a lot of these things out there. They're not all gonna stick, but that one made me laugh, so I liked it a lot. And then of course, Jim is having bad luck with Uber, and he had another Uber driver that got a ticket by the same police officer at the same spot. So they're just waiting for the Uber drivers to make that turn. And unfortunately, Jim had to get out twice now and do that. And then they started talking about Uber drivers. And I got to tell you, they're talking about tipping Uber drivers and some, I think, was it Sam's Little Man doesn't tip them at all or something like that.
Yeah, hot dog.
Yeah, not a big tipper. Not a big tipper. And it's funny because my wife actually drove Uber for maybe 2 years right before the pandemic, just for, a little extra spending money and that kind of thing. And when she first started, they give you a lot of incentives. Like if you do 30 rides, in over a weekend, you'll get an extra $400 or something like that. As soon as those are done, it's not a win-win situation for the Uber driver. First of all, you got to pay for your own gas. You're insured by Uber if you're driving the car when you have a fare, like when you have somebody in the car. But if you don't have anybody and you're just driving around, you're not insured. So if you got in an accident and you're working, but you don't have anybody in there, it's on your insurance and your insurance may not cover you. So you had to get extra insurance. Then, Uber takes such a big chunk. So say you're going to the airport, right? And it's maybe $45. The Uber driver's making $7, $8 out of that. So if you can tip your Uber driver, I think that'd be good. I actually did it for a little while just to see what it was like. Yeah. She got like an incentive, like if you get another Uber driver, they will make $100 and you make it. I'm like, I'll try this. We'll see what it's like. And I enjoyed it enough that it was fun to talk to people. But you get sent some crazy places, and I don't.
Yeah, and you just don't know the people. That. Like I have a lot of friends that have tried it actually, and same thing. Like a little bit of got some spare time, a little bit extra money, see what it's like, and it's interesting. It's interesting. You can't help but wonder.
Yeah, so I feel bad because I wonder if Uber will take care of that gentleman's ticket, or it'll be up to the driver to deal with. Because in my experience, it'll probably be up to the driver. Which is unfortunate.
And it's so weird that it's the same cop too. I could see if this happens again and makes Jim late or something, I could see Jim snapping at the cop. I could see that.
He mentioned it a little bit. He goes, I'm not going to yell at the cop, but I can't believe that there's murders going on and people getting pushed on subways. What are these guys doing? And Jim could be a, Jim and our boy Troy have a little bit of the fuse that might blow, just might go.
Speaking of fuses, we had, they're still not getting help with the videos. And they had another outage where the show was just out for a little bit. And what this happened like 3 weeks ago, I want to say this happened?
It was weird because I listened primarily on the app and it was right when they went to break.
Right.
So they went to break and then they were out. And I'm like, okay, because I'm fast forwarding through the commercials. Sorry, Sirius. And And I heard the announcement, the show, that you're listening to, we'll get it back. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, it wasn't something that I enjoy, but I think they didn't really lose any time of content that we wanted to do. So
All right, we got two things to get through quick before we do our line of the week and guest of the week.
sure.
And we definitely want to talk about Sandy. We got 10 minutes here.
Why don't we do line first, because then we can go guest, and that will lead right into our friend Sandy.
And real quick, I want to say Sam will probably watch Terminal this weekend. Jim did a great job breaking it down, making sure I'm never going to see it.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, did you say
let's do line.
Line?
Okay. Line of the week first, because if we go that, and then we can go to guest of the week and then go on to Sandy. It'll be perfect.
Chris, I think mine was just when, speaking of Sandy, when Troy kept cutting again. Troy, this is a Troy episode. When Troy kept cutting in, when it'd be like, yeah, now you do it any temperature. She has her joke about she did.
I had that one. We finally had one the same, because I had the exact one, because it was so funny. I didn't know if that was a Sandy bit, and Troy just came out with it, but she said exactly what you said. She said, yeah, I used to do drugs in the 80s. And Troy said, now she does it at any temperature. Right. And that went on and on and on and on. And yeah, Troy hit it out of the park, and it's nice to give him the crown for line of the week for sure.
Absolutely. And I think we both agree Sandy's by far the guest. It was a guest light week.
Yeah, I mean, the only guest was Mike, the comedian, and then Sandy. And of course, Sandy's frustrating. I could tell Sam was getting frustrated at the time. And they did a lot of this, a lot of clapping when something went, hey, and he's like, hey, man, all her stuff. But if she's going to bring a theme song, she's going to bring a theme song to the show. She has to be the guest of the week, right?
Yeah. And in addition to that, she came with an agenda. I don't know. This was pretty subtle. I don't know if you picked up on it. Twice, I think, she mentioned how she's trying to get a show at SiriusXM. So she came in with like an angle.
That was like 10 times she was saying that, yeah.
Oh, man. And there's that. Before her appearance, I don't know if they pressed her on this, but she said she made a sign to carry around New York with her and now deceased RIP Jerry Springer, who we're going to miss here around Chicago.
Yeah.
I've actually met him at spring training, baseball game, a Yankee spring training game. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah, I met him a couple
she's
times.
Walking around. Yeah, I'm sure you met him in a TV world.
TV, yep.
Great guy in my experience. And she's walking around with this sign of her and Jerry Springer trying to get a little promotion for her appearance.
And her appearance led to one of the funniest things I thought happened all week. They are talking to her for at least 45 minutes, right? And so, okay, well, let's start the show. She goes, we're not recording. He goes, no, we're going to start the show. And they restarted the show. Yes, and she goes, what's going on? He goes, well, this is just rehearsal. This was just rehearsal. And she bought it.
Radio shows always making rehearsal.
Rehearsal. These guys never rehearse for anything, or even looking at prep sheet, probably.
Right.
Yeah, they restarted the show with the theme music and went back in, and then shortly thereafter they said goodbye. It was great.
It was amazing. I loved it. And last thing I got on Sandy was her idea for a movie actually is a good idea for a movie. I actually kind of want to see that movie.
It's convoluted, but yeah, it was. Yeah,
for sure.
It has a good idea.
Yeah, it was. A woman gets a terminal ill, or no, she knows she's going to kill herself.
It's around suicide. Yeah,
she takes money out of the bank and just drives cross country doing whatever she wants. And then as she's telling them, I go, oh, she's going to realize that she doesn't want to do it. And then she's like, she realizes she doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
it's a little
good for Sandy.
Thematic,
she got a movie idea.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, this is a Troy episode of our podcast. That new theme song that they played on Thursday morning that Sandy did, well, Troy's going to put some beats behind it, I think, and do some production work. And and they've given him the task to hopefully get it by Monday, but I would assume by next Thursday we'll have the new one. Troy said maybe a little jazz, maybe a little Amy Winehouse, I think Sam wanted. We'll see how that comes around.
What is maybe one of our listeners can tell us in comments if we don't know, but what was the one song he remixed? He did a bunch of versions of. They had him do a couple years ago. It was phenomenal.
Yeah,
man.
I remember what you're talking about. They and he had all different kind of genres of music. It'd be a jazz one, and maybe Troy would come on our show and talk.
I think I could try to ask him, because
that would be good. That would be good.
And go ahead.
They ended on a great note this week, right? They really hit it hard after the first break of Thursday's show. coming back, they started talking about John Denver, which was great, but Jim kind of brought about a new character that I think he developed in that break and annoyed Sam with. And I can't do that character. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's what Sam called the guy who can't riff. Yeah. And then he also called him funny asides, where it's just a Doug Bell-ish kind of guy that just.
Yeah.
You do it at all? Do you kind of, it's hard.
Yeah. No, it was very Doug Bell-ish. I think it's the best way to put it. And it was interesting because he's doing different things the way he kept like kind of making those comparisons and asking questions. But it's pretty similar to Doug Bell. I think most of his characters are very separate. This guy's leaning a little Bell. But I'm sure we'll hear more.
He doesn't have a name. I would have thought they would have come up with a name. We'll see if he makes it through the weekend and develops even further next week, right?
Right. That'd be amazing. I think he will. And before we put a bow on this one, this came up during the week, and I just got to ask you, Chris, your verdict. Who wins in a fight, Ben Shapiro or Travis Tefft?
That's a tough call. We kind of found out from Travis's wife that there's no chance of really putting muscle on him. So, we've seen Ben talk in political arenas. So I think he might be a little tougher. So it comes down to heart, right? So I would, if Undie Flip was a competition, we know Travis would win in Undie Flip. But for my money, I'm going to have to go with Ben. I'm sorry to say, Travis. Your thoughts?
I agree, just because I've watched a lot of Ben debates, and he's an intense, well thought out guy. He would come into the confrontation with a plan, and he would execute. And that's no disrespect to Travis, who's
and Travis is a do boy, right? He's gonna do whatever everybody says and be subservient to Mr. Shapiro.
Hey, what I got to do now is end this show. Thank you all for watching and listening, all you Jim and Sam fans. And Chris, thanks as always for joining me. Always a great time, man.
It is a therapy session for us as well, and it goes by in a flash. So, yes, I appreciate everybody listening, and it'll be great to see you all next week in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not Doug Bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.